That's good enough then.
Disgustingly. Wow.
I mean, come on. We have
We're
a certain
going there.
standard that we're going to try to keep with the podcast. I've got my workout shirt on that I still haven't changed from.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Okay. A little too much information, but that's okay. You can't smell through the microphone, so it's fine. So, hey, last episode was great. That was fantastic. And we were talking a bit about the motivating statement, and give us just a little rehash on that, a little summary on that.
Yeah, what I like about it is, and I think I like your terminology, is whether you call it a mission statement, a North Star, whatever that thing is, that's what you're driving towards in terms of how you create value for your customers, for your team members, and for the company. And I think the way we encapsulate it is, this doesn't have to be, like Thoreau, go in the woods and with a blank little booklet and start writing a treatise on what your company's going to be. This is let's get something on paper. We kept alluding to the Business on a Mission, the one pager from Donald Miller,
Right.
with
Right.
Business Made Simple. We really like that format.
Fantastically
So we started with
simple and to the point. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the best thing about this process, and you were touching on it, was the fact that, we don't have to do a round trip to Tibet, to get in touch with our inner self and be away from our company for 30 days so that we can come back with this miraculous carved in stone statement that everybody is going to just be amazed by. It's not necessary. And in fact, we showed how some of the multi-billion-dollar companies they're not doing it. It's a statement and it means nothing. We don't want that. Your time's too valuable for that, right? I mean, it should be something that motivates and compels your team to work harder, to move forward, and to see what that end goal and that total vision is.
100%. And the great thing about it is, as we've talked about the responsive operating system, it's making it visible. So in many cases, a lot of these pieces exist. Our bet was that there's probably something written down. If not, get it written down, but then refine it over time. And as we get deeper into the other parts of this operating system, you'll go back and keep refining it as you learn more. And then at some point, you'll end up and say, I think that's our vision for the next, 1, 2, 3 years. Sometimes it's the vision. Right. And that sticks with the company for quite some time. Then the other cool thing was adding 3 economic goals to it. And we talked about, it doesn't have to be just top line revenue. There's all kinds of different economic measures you can add to it. Those measures should also have dates assigned to them. Right. So that gives it that immediacy, gives you traction, and starts to drive action. So that statement that you write, plus those 3 economic goals that you've written, are really the things that are driving the actions, or should drive the actions in your company. So today we want to take the next step and talk about the other 2 parts of the one pager from BMS. We were just talking before the show about EOS. There's so many different formats out there. If you like the EOS format, for developing your vision, mission, fine. That's perfect.
Yep.
But whatever works for you, or just start with a blank piece of paper and start from there. So we've gone from writing that motivating statement, adding 3 economic objectives. Based on that, Brian, what's our next step?
Yeah. And then, I love what you said. So it's that overarching goal, that North Star, whatever you want to call it. Then we have our 3 economic objectives, and then we almost bring it back to the North Star in a sense, and we kind of reiterate it and give the why. And the why is just that soft, touchy-feely reason for why we're doing our physical action, just so that we can mentally, our soul can keep in mind, wow, this is why I am going through this. This is why I'm sweating. This is what our overall goal is, outside of the financial aspects. So yeah, so this is great. And then, so think of it almost as I think of it as a pyramid. We got our we got our mission or motivating statement, and then we're going to build the foundation underneath it with where this actually gets legs and where this is actually going to get some traction and how this is going to be implemented, and not just something that you felt good about last weekend writing. This isn't a catharsis on a piece of paper. We want this to be implemented, remembered, and really practiced out. So this is good. The two things, the key points we're going to cover are the key characteristics and then the critical actions. So those are the two aspects we're going to build underneath our motivating or mission statement. What's the key characteristics and what are the critical actions? Why don't you give me a little bit, what are your thoughts on that right off the bat before I go on a monologue?
So interesting, as I went through the training that we did, now going on almost 2.5 years ago, as I started looking at this, I really liked and it's just 3 of these, right? So we've got the 3 economic goals tied to the mission statement, and then we want 3 key characteristics and 3 critical actions. And the notes I took, I remember it was, one is the key characteristics are who we need to be successful per the mission. So who we need to be, which can get to values, those kinds of things. And then the critical actions is what we need to do daily to be successful. And that one really intrigued me because, again, I'm going to go back to lean. One of the key tools used in lean is leader standard work. And right away, when I looked at the critical actions, it's what are the things. Now, this isn't just necessarily for your leaders, it can be your team members, but what are the things that they need to do on a daily basis, right? So what behaviors do we need to do? And here's the cool thing. It may be behaviors that you're already doing, and make sure you keep doing those things, because that's what's made your company unique already. And then there may be 1 or maybe 2 of something new that you want to add in terms of key behaviors that are going to support it. Or it could be, here's the 3 that we're already doing. We want to prioritize those and make sure that those ring through every day.
So for us minions in the normal world, for us, intellectual amateurs, define leader standard. What did you say? Leader standard work?
Leader standard work. Yeah. Leader standard work is
that 3 different segments, basically? Correct? Or not?
So leader standard work is a document, and you can do a quick search on this. You'll find a quick format, but it's things that you do during the day, sometimes hourly, daily, weekly, monthly. It's the things that you do as a leader in the organization. And a nice tie into this, Brian, is as we talked about with the Gallup Q12. If you identify a couple areas in there where you have lower scores than you would like, some of the things we find are, hey, does your team have what they need to do their work every day? And that's one of the questions.
Right.
If they don't, then one of the key or the leader standard work or the critical actions could be is checking in on your team multiple times a day, and in some cases, like right after the break. Right after lunch, whenever, and you check in with them and say, how is it going? Do you have everything you need? Right. Mm-hmm. So it's whether it's paper and pencil, for some people, it could be supplies, could be any kind of thing. But the idea is, Brian, that on an hourly, like I said, daily, weekly, monthly basis, there are things that we expect our leaders to be doing, and it's unique to that leader depending on what their role is, of course.
Sure.
But the nice thing about here is, if you have none of that, if you start with the critical actions, we're going to have 3 of them.
Yeah.
Right. And those are the 3 that are encompassing for the company. And then you can actually transform those as you get from the company level down to the department level. You can transform that critical action from sort of a generic action to very specifically, how does that look in my department? How does that look in,
Yeah. And that's just what I was going to elaborate on, was the fact that, if you've got a big company, or you have a company that has clearly defined divisions and different roles that really do not overlap, set up. It's okay. Play with this. This is like we want to do with a lot of these things. These are not things set in stone. These are tools to be used, Play-Doh to be molded. And if you need to, go ahead and set up those key characteristics for your primary divisions. Now, I would caution in that area, don't go too deep down that rabbit hole, because you could divide up a million different things. And then you're like, then there's so many key characteristics that nothing becomes really key. And that's a problem. But even if we have our three primary key characteristics for the entire company, if you set up any others according to your divisions, maybe you have a finance division and operations division and a marketing division, it's okay. Just make sure that whatever those tasks you're setting up, those characteristics you're setting up, go to support the three for the entire organization. Correct?
100%. And that's what I'm saying. If you don't have this is great, because now you can start, and you start small.
Yeah.
Because once you get going, I mean, these become, you can see binders on people's desks. Don't need that right now. What we need to say is, hey, these are ones. So a good example, right? You come into a retail store, I always cringe, right? Especially if you know that they're on commission. It's like, I do not want to talk to that salesperson, because poorly run, well, I should say this. From my perspective as a customer, poorly run retail operations that have commission salespeople, those people jump on top of you immediately and start pushing you.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, my name's Mike. Welcome to our store. I can answer any questions you have on the way in. Otherwise, hey, I'm going to be available within earshot. Take a look around and let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah.
If
absolutely.
if you tell your team to do that, one is that cell phone they're looking at, I need to make sure that every customer that walks in that door is greeted. Right? There's a specific greeting I want to have. So guess what? Their eyes are always up and they're looking to make sure that that's happening. Then there's a specific way you'd like them to talk to them, and not pressing them for, to close the sale as soon as they walk in the door. But it could be something as simple as that. And man, you walk into a place, what you want is consistency. I've been going to the same, I have a woman that does my hair for me, get it cut every 3 weeks since I've been married, which is going on 36 years.
Me too.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No
I've got
kidding.
the same person that's been doing my hair.
And it's the same. And I love it because it's the same. I have the same, I shouldn't say expectations, but I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to walk in, I'm going to wait just a little bit. I know exactly how early I can get there. I know she's going to be sharp tongued and, giving me, smacking me around as soon as I walk in the door. But I go back because, I like the operation, I like the owners. She's very good at what she does. They're well trained, right? They stay up on top of all the industry stuff. But it's very consistent. So the cool thing about this is customers coming in may start to see something different. Awesome. But then make sure it's consistent going forward, because if you give them that special feeling coming in and then you slack off on it, that's going to give them a bad taste in their mouth. So you may have been operating at this level and you start to say, hey, we're going to raise the bar. We want you guys to be doing these 3 things now. Customers are going to see that. If you stop doing those things, what they thought was your service here actually is going to drop, because you changed their expectations and then you took that away.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be very, very careful about how you do this, how it's brought in. And that's why only 3 of them. But then insisting that those things are being done, and down to, I think I mentioned the bingo card. Hey, Monday through Friday, whatever shifts you work, were you able to do these things while you were doing the work? And so that inspect, we set expectations. We talk about this. We do quick, but train our teams on why these are important. Tie them back to the mission, our motivating statement, and then as you go through the day, through the weeks, is monitoring and making sure that we're doing those things, and then get feedback on it.
Yeah,
because different places in the country are going to respond differently to different things, right? So you could do that old folksy, Northwoods thing for some, and others may be like, that isn't working for me. So we've got a a tourist spot in northern Wisconsin, Eagle River. And so you're up in the North Woods in Wisconsin in very rural area, but some very, very expensive homes. Some Hollywood elites live there, have summer homes up there. So, you see all kinds. But what they love about it is that you go into these establishments. I mentioned that there's a hardware store up there that we love to go to. And it's perfect because people come in and they, some know what they want, some don't, but you're all treated the same.
Right.
Right. If Keanu Reeves walks in, maybe you get tongue tied and not to say he's up in Eagle River, but what I like is, and why I like this simple one pager, Brian, is it's very easy to document what you want to have happen, and then it's very easy to start to set expectations for your team, and then get feedback immediately on how those things are going. So those critical actions are the three separate unique things at the company level that you want to do, and then to your point, Brian, you can then chunk those down to, hey, if I'm in this department or if I'm in this division,
right,
how does that look? Still supporting that main critical action.
Right. And so what we have here, if you want, 3 simple questions to ask. Hey, how do I get to my key characteristics? Number 1, very simply, what specific characteristics will each person need to deliver this product or service and solve the customer's problems? What specific characteristics are needed to solve that customer's problems? That's number 1, very basic. Number 2, what characteristics will be necessary to keep solving the problems, to keep the process going? It's not enough to initiate, but we need to sustain it, right? And then what characteristics will be necessary for a great culture, basically, is what characteristics do we need to have implemented to make sure that our people are feeling not forgotten about and top notch? So those are just, and okay, so what are those characteristics? Write them down, brainstorm them. You're going to have more than 3. You're going to be like, you're going to just do just write down everything that comes to mind, and then maybe bring in another person or 2 to be like, hey, what do you think are the top 5, 6, 7 of these? And then whittle it down from there. Okay, is there any overlap? Can it be condensed down? And then just mold it on into, but really try to get it down to 3. That's gonna make a big difference, and keep it simple, like you said, because we can overcomplicate it right off the bat.
Right. And I think that allowing each individual to deliver it the way in their sort of personalized way. So again, if you're talking about greeting, every customer as they walk into the store, there's a general theme sort of script you want to have with them, but you don't want to sound like automatons, right? Like robots that, when you walk in, you sound the same as everybody else. So here's the general idea of how we want to interact with our customers. Let them know we're here for them. They know your name. They know the company's name. And then that you're here for them. Boom.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. So let me give you a few examples of key characteristics. They love solving problems for our customers. They always see the best in their teammates. They enjoy hosting families and giving them a great experience, not just food. So these are just characteristics that each of our team members, we want them to have. And what this creates is an easy accountability system between leadership and the frontline team. And wait a second. All right, guys. And it also creates a wonderful self-test and self-assessment too. Was I this way today? Was I this way? Did I do this? Yeah.
I'm just going to ask. So we were talking critical actions. Now we're moving into the key characteristics.
Oh, were we doing that?
Yeah.
I had key characteristics first.
They're talking about critical. I should take a step back. We've got the 3 of them. I'm trying to keep us on task here. So you're right. We have been talking about the key characteristics. I was already zooming into the next
Mike,
the next
are
phase
you,
of the
wait a
show.
second, Mike, are
Yes,
you
my
trying
mind
to
is
tell
on
me
the plane.
you weren't even thinking about what I was saying? Listen, Mike, if I want somebody to ignore me, I'd call my wife. Come on. This isn't necessary. You
I
can't
bet you
be
that's not
thinking
happening.
you
My,
can't be
my,
thinking about your response
yeah.
already. That's my job. So,
And just so everybody knows, we're trying some hand cues here behind the scenes so we can interrupt each other.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we're we're
And
uh we're experimenting.
for those of you listening, you're supposed to just put up your index finger. I'm afraid I might be getting a different finger by the end of the by the end of the episode. So, all right, Mike, you take the wheel here because you're leaving the country or going to, I don't know, Tibet, wherever you're going to do your own motivating statement for
Yeah.
the next week. Do we want to cover key characteristics or are we going to critical action?
Well, and I think part of this is they. I'm not going to say they're interchangeable,
Yeah,
but depending on it, because when you started talking more broadly, like so,
it
greeting a
does
customer.
overlap.
Yeah. So greeting a customer and when they walk in the door, every single customer, right? That's one thing. But a key characteristic is always be aware of the customer, always be aware and helping them solve their problems. That's more of a key characteristic. Be a problem solver. I worked with a company and we put that in and they said, well, wait a minute, how do you solve problems? I said, well, isn't that interesting? So we know it's critical that we can do problem solving. Now let's train on different problem solving tools. And we started with basic problem solving tools. So it was great that we said, hey, we know we need to do this as a key characteristic, but we're not great at it.
Yeah.
So we learned, how some very basic tools to do problem solving with customers. So to your point, if you do some brainstorming in this, Brian, then you can start to select a hand, three from a list of maybe 15. Some it may be a mix of key characteristics and critical actions.
Yeah. And you made a great point there. So for any of our listeners out there, think of it this way. How do I feel is the key characteristics aspect. How do you want your team to feel versus how do you want them to act?
Mhm.
So while most of the time it is going to overlap a lot of times, the key actions are going to be more specific. Yeah. And probably
Yeah.
the characteristics will stay more general. But again, this is meant to be broad in general so that
Mhm.
you can fine tune it yourself. So that's what kind of makes this fun.
Yeah, some could be something as simple as critical actions. We answer the phone on by the second ring. I mean,
Absolutely.
something as simple as that. That sets a tone for most customers are used to calling and the phone rings forever, or they hit one of those phone trees and dial hit one for this, hit two for that, hit three for that, and then every time you think you have it memorized, they change the menu.
Yeah, of
So
course. Of course. Yeah. And I mean, when I had my stores, the one thing we did was, all right, one of the critical actions was everybody has to be greeted within 10 seconds. They have to be greeted and just acknowledged, welcomed within 10 seconds. One of the key characteristics was you have to always be smiling.
mm,
We had four. You have to be always serving, always serving, improving, looking to improve yourself and your environment, always caring for yourself, your team, and the customer coming in, and always knowing. It was sick. Serving, improving, caring, knowing. Those were our key characteristics that everybody had to have. They had to be exemplified by specific actions. And that's what the action part is, the
yeah,
critical actions.
yeah, like you mentioned earlier, I think as the key characteristics, think about those sort of as values, right? How you do things, to your point, and
Yep.
then the critical actions is what.
Right.
So what I like about the 10 seconds is it's not 2 seconds. It's not jump on the customer as soon as they walk in the door. Because if you count out 10, one Mississippi, two Mississippi, three, it gives them a chance to get in the door, kind of scan, and you can immediately see, are they going to bolt for a particular section because they know what they're doing, or you can see pretty quick they don't know where to go, and so you can stop in and have that conversation.
Yeah, and we found that out the hard way, because you got some that wouldn't greet at all, and then some that were, because we're like 30 seconds is too long, 3 seconds is too short, this and that. And then a lot of people don't even know what customer service is, and so I had to tell them, actually give them an example of what customer service was. And I said, it's hosting a party. They're like, what do you mean? Well, when somebody comes to your house and you've invited them, you want them to feel welcome, but you don't want to be all over them like nonstop. And so that was one of the things. Yeah.
Unless they're bringing a bottle of wine or a nice bottle of booze or something, then we want to be all over them. Make sure we get that on the counter and opened up.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So you don't have to dig into your own.
Hey, I heard the new thing is you bring a bottle of wine, and then if it's not open during the soiree, you take it home. What is that? What is going on in this world? Yes.
Are you serious?
That's all. I guess that
sounds like how my brother gives Christmas presents. Seriously, my brother gives a Christmas present to me, and if I don't use it within an internal predetermined time that he is set up in his mind, then he takes it back and he uses it. And so I'm like, what is it? Every Christmas gift he gives has an expiration date tied to it. Sorry, John, it's true. So I always say, how long do I have before I have to use this, or else it's taken back, So,
but I think your point is really well taken, Brian, because if you come, let's say you're not in retail and you come in, well, how do you want me to act? Right. And they may not know what that means. Or again, they come from a store or a company where they don't treat their customers the way you'd like them to be treated. Then we train on that. And then we make sure that we watch and say, are we seeing these key characteristics and these critical actions on a daily basis, right? Are those being exemplified by the team? If they're not, great coaching opportunity. But the other one is, what's preventing them from being able to do this? Or is there feedback coming back to say, hey, if we tweak this a little bit, I know you're asking me to do this, but what I'm seeing from our customers is they don't like that as much. So what if we did it this way? It's like, is everybody in agreement? Yeah. Okay, then we'll tweak it a little bit.
Right.
That's the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep in mind when doing the critical actions, don't lose sight of that North Star, those 3 primary goals that you have. Your critical actions absolutely have to support and enhance those 3 economic objectives that you have, and that North Star, so to speak. It has to do that. And number 2, it has to be universal. It has to be something that everybody can, will, and is required to do. Yeah.
The nice thing about this is we've talked about is we want to hit the ground running. So let's get this one pager done. What this is a plan to execute against those goals, right? That's a separate conversation that we're going to have. These are things that we can do instantly based on the creation of our mission statement, that we can do instantly to change the way that we interact with our team members, interact with customers, and how we want to interact with each other, right? So those are things we do immediately that we can do. To your point, they're aligned with our mission. They're aligned with those goals. Separately now, that we'll start, not now, but in the future, we'll start to talk about, okay, now how do we build out plans to support those 3 economic measures that we put in place? Those are unique projects, or it could be multiple projects underneath those that will drive those. So these are things that align with our mission statement, talk about how we want to behave and interact every day. And then separately, we'll start to talk about how do you then build out project plans to support those 3 goals that we put in place.
Absolutely. And the only thing I would say that we really haven't touched on in this aspect, and Donald Miller doesn't either in this area, is just you probably want to have a rough idea of how you're going to measure and keep everybody accountable on this, because it's super easy to. It's kind of just right there. All you need is that simple piece of paper or that little, I mean, it's 3 aspects, right? So we got 3 attitudes and 3 actions. So we could easily just have a 6-question scorecard and just write it up and just be like, okay, I'm just to make sure that this not only has legs, but keeps going. And but like you said, keep this simple. Do not get buried in this.